Hello and welcome back to the world of the spirit consciousness. We now begin the 14th module, which deals with spiritualism. This has been divided across two different video sessions, and the contents are drawn from the 22nd chapter. In this video session, we will be discussing an introduction. It has some opposing views, and we'll be discussing the opposing views over there, and we'll be discussing the benefits and drawbacks. So diving into the topic, this has been divided as we rightly just said a minute ago. Introduction, opposing views on spiritualism, benefits of spiritualism, the significant drawbacks, the types of entities who may communicate in a seance, other caveats in dealing with members on astral plane, and concluding thoughts on spiritualism. Let us have a look at introduction. So these days, spiritualism means various types of communication with the astral world with the help of a medium. So basically, spiritualism today means various types of communication with the astral world with the help of a medium. We have already discussed the origin and history of spiritualistic movement in the module on astral entities when we were discussing the artificials. So the etheric system which paves for the spiritualistic occurrences has been explained in detail in the etheric double, and this has been done in the module which covers mediumship. The student is recommended to view the video or read the book The Etheric Double for the same. So after a quick introduction, let us see what the opposing views on spiritualism are. So there is a view of Miss Helena Blavatsky who has been against spiritualism. Charles Webster Leadbeater was for spiritualism. And then there is a common ground between spiritualism and Theosophy that also will be discussed. So coming to Helena Blavatsky's points of view. So during the initial days of the Theosophical Society, Helena Blavatsky passionately wrote about spiritualism. She highly emphasized on its unpredictability. She also put a great emphasis in the predominance of false impersonations over actual appearances. It can be easily said that these views have influenced and established the disapproving outlook of most Theosophical Society members towards spiritualism. So we have also Mr. Leadbeater who is for spiritualism. So Charles Webster Leadbeater experimented with spiritualism for a few years. He has stated that his personal experiences have been favorable. He frequently believed he personally witnessed almost all the phenomena as mentioned in the spiritual literature, and this he has viewed it frequently. Regarding apparitions, he experienced that most of them were real, though their messages were not of much value. The religion's guidance was clearly Christianity and water, yet the guidance was liberal and advanced rather than dogmatic orthodox perspective. So sorry. So Leadbeater indicated that Theosophists and Spiritualists have a lot of important common ground. For instance, they both believe that post-death life is real, detailed, and an undeniable fact. They both believe that there is surely constant progress and eventual happiness for the good as well as bad. So the common ground between the spiritualism and theosophy. So both these beliefs are of extreme importance because they are a huge leap ahead of the ordinary orthodox views. It appears slightly disappointing that theosophists and spiritualists can't unite on these broad issues and agree with having minor differences until a majority of the world has agreed to this part of the truth. This book provides sufficient room for both the groups of truth seekers to join hands. People who desire to witness occurrences and can't believe something without seeing it are naturally inclined to spiritualism. On the contrary, those who desire more philosophy than generally are given by spiritualism are naturally drawn to theosophy. Hence, both movements are meant for two different kinds of people, both being liberal and open minded. In the meanwhile, unity between the theosophy and spiritualism may be recommended, keeping in mind the huge goals in question. In the coming slides, we will discuss the various beneficial applications of spiritualism and its drawbacks. So, coming to the benefits of spiritualism, so this has been again subdivided into four subsections. So the benefits go as it promotes the belief in afterlife, it helps the deceased get over their anxieties. Spiritualism contains the parts of teachings of theosophy, and then we'll be discussing the higher spiritualism as well. So, promoting belief in afterlife. So, in support of spiritualism, it has attained its purpose to an extent. A large number of people have converted from not believing in anything specific to firmly believing in some kind of afterlife. As we discussed the module on astral entities, this is a huge result. There is no better way to break the disbelief in the worlds other than the physical by experimenting a little. These are possibly worth the risk in trying to understand the other planes. However, some people believe this result has been achieved at a very large expense. So, although it has delayed the advancement of souls who would have otherwise liberated quickly, it has paved the way for others' escape and the advancement for themselves. Surely, spiritualism poses danger for people who have sensitive, emotional, and have nervous natures. Hence, it is not recommended to take the experiments too far for reasons that may be obvious to the students. Leadbeater confidently states that although there were some fraudulent experiences, spiritualism offers highly valuable truths which can be explored by anyone willing to dedicate time and patience to the experiments. Evidently, there is abundant literature on this subject. So, those learning this course must note that there are some dogmatic and narrow minded spiritualists who are not at all aware of reincarnation. Quite possibly, large number of English and American spiritualists are not aware of reincarnation, although some spiritualism schools do teach it. So the next benefit of spiritualism, it helps the deceased get over their anxieties. So the noble work done by invisible helpers, for more on that you'll have to refer to module 19. So this has been done by the service of mediums or those present at a seance. In certain cases, a deceased individual has appeared to his or her friends and family without a medium's help and has communicated its wishes to them. However, such cases are rare, and usually the earthbound souls need the assistance of a medium or a conscious invisible helper to help them get rid of their anxieties. Thus, only looking at the negative aspects of spiritualism would be incorrect. One must remember that spiritualism has done tremendous good by offering the deceased an opportunity to settle matters after an immediate and unforeseen death. The spiritualism also contains parts of teachings of theosophy. So, as we have discussed earlier, after death, a person generally prefers the company of those they knew on earth and communicate with the same type of people they did during the physical lifetime. Therefore, there is little possibility of an individual knowing or recognizing the fact of reincarnation after death as compared to before it. Majority of people carry their prejudices into the astral world, and this bars them from getting new ideas. They don't improve on their openness to accepting new ideas as compared to the physical plane. Clearly, a really open minded individual can learn a lot on the astral plane and can become familiar with the theosophical teachings as dead people are known to do so. Therefore, one finds parts of that teachings in the spirit communications. So, coming to higher spiritualism, so one must remember that there is also a higher spiritualism which is not known to a majority of people. There are no records of its results either. The higher circles are absolutely private and limited to a small group of sitters. The same sitters meet repeatedly and no outsider is allowed to alter the magnetism. The state is extraordinarily perfect and the most remarkable results are thus obtained. Usually, the deceased are as much as a part of their family's daily routine as they were when alive. The sciences have a grand hidden side. The thought forms around the sciences are good and intended to advance the spiritual and mental level of the vicinity. A lower class of deceased appear at the public sciences because there is an indiscreet and indiscriminate mix of magnetism in public gatherings. So, having seen the benefits of spiritualism, let us discuss the significant drawbacks. So again, this has been subdivided into various subsections. Three, namely, it keeps the ego chained to the astral body. Such entities can garner negative karma and it can cause potential harm to the sitters in a seance. So let us evaluate each one of them. So ordinarily, an individual after death has his or her consciousness constantly rising from the lower part of the nature to the higher. This ego is constantly retiring from the lower planes. A grave objection to the overall practice of spiritualism is that it reawakens the lower part from the natural unconsciousness which it is passing from. Calling it back with the earth to communicate through a medium is surely not helpful to its evolution. Therefore, it is very unhealthy kindness to call back on the earth plane someone whose lower manas is still struggling to get rid of karmic gratifications. So this interrupts the usual advancement and delays the overall process of evolution. Their duration on the Kamaloka hence gets extended. The astral body is gratified and its hold over the ego is maintained. The soul's freedom is thus delayed, calling it the immortal swallow being still held by the bird line of earth. In cases of sudden suicide or sudden death, it is especially unpleasant to reawaken the Trishna or the desire to be able to feel things in existence. So let us now see how these entities can garner negative karma as well. So it is especially dangerous since the ego is constantly retiring to a higher self and gradually has lesser control on the lower consciousness. Hence, it continues to generate karma until completely separated. Under such circumstances, it is much more possible to generate evil karma rather than the good ones. Moreover, those who have lived an evil life and crave the physical life that they have left, the animalistic pleasures which they can't derive directly, are likely to surround the mediums and sensitives to utilize them for their personal gratifications. These are one of the most harmful forces and are called by the ignorance of reckless and curious people. So it can do potential harm to sitters in a seance. So a desperate astral being is likely to dominate and possess a sensitive sitter or follow him or her home and possess their spouse or daughters. In majority of such cases, it is generally impossible to expel such a possessive entity. As we discussed earlier, the grief of family and friends on earth is likely to attract the deceased entities back on the physical plane. This causes a lot of suffering to the dead along with a delay in their evolution. Now, the type of the entities attracted to seances depend on the kind of medium. Lower types of medium draw absolutely unpleasant visitors who replenish their own depleted vitality from the seance room. If someone at the seance has a low development, the entities will attach to that individual. This will initiate astral currents between the individual and the deceased, producing terrible results. So, having seen the spiritual significant drawbacks of spiritualism, we'll move on to our next video where we will discuss the types of entities who may communicate in a seance, other caveats in dealing with the members on astral plane, and some concluding thoughts on spiritualism. Stay tuned.